Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Worth It Then Worth It Now, an ongoing segment I do here on this channel where I look at games of yesteryear, specifically 10 plus years removed, and I just duck back in, get a bit of B-roll, celebrate some nostalgia, and line it up with a sale where possible. So today we're having a look at Dying Light, which is such a great game, one of my favorites ever. I've covered it over the years multiple times on the main channel, but you know, here it is in this new category. And as promised, it's on sale at the time of this recording. It's going for around about $5, but there's all this peripheral DLC that you can bundle it together as well. But the core experience, what really matters is $5. I'd argue that the following is almost its own game, a kind of new game plus DLC episode worth checking out. But you know, there's no hurry. It's one of those things where you could pick this game up, play through it, find yourself loving it, and then get the following. So I'd say just get this basic game and you're in for a blast. It came out in 2015, so just past 10 years now, and it started something really special. Well, actually, that's not true. It was a spin-off in a way. Oh, okay, quick history lesson. So as I recall, the guys that made this, Techland, they actually made Dead Island 1 in the original back in the day. And so you can see that they're clearly very similar. This is obviously a spiritual successor. I'm not sure what quite happened with the rights, but Dead Island 2 got announced and then got tied up forever. And it was in development hell to the point where I think they must have rebuilt it entirely from the ground up. And it did finally release. And I unironically really enjoy Dead Island 2, but that's a discussion a bit beyond the scope here. So there's been some weird zigzagging back and forth. The Dying Light core series is kind of now what Techland is mostly known for, even if they did start off creating the first one, Dead Island. Since then, we've had obviously Dying Light the following, which in its own right is almost its own game. Dying Light 2, which is a fever dream. I only started playing that like last year. It's one of those, you know, several years later, the outbreak apocalypsed the world, and it's almost a different series altogether. But it's still got the trademark, everything that makes Dying Light 1 so strong that it's perfectly playable. In fact, it's wonderful, and I really want to go back and spend more time. And then Dying Light the Beast arguably comes back to its roots. That came out just last year, right? And it's funny playing this again. This feels like Dying Light the Beast a lot. Anyway, so all of these games that I've mentioned are all bangers. The whole zombie first-person narrative, whether it's Dying Light or whether it's Dead Island, they're all worth playing. But let's just start here, because this might be the most high-profile one these days. Dead Island showing its age a bit. And boy, does this hold up still. The unique thing that it was bringing to the table is it mixes in sort of a parkour system mentality, right? We covered Mirror's Edge the other day, and that's a game that really goes in on parkour. So this has it integrated, right? It's not necessarily the core. It's more of recognizing that going vertical is a very legitimate way to deal with zombies in this world. They pretty much can't get up onto rooftops, and so they have a whole system of all the different factions have runners. But it's not like some sort of free flow combo parkour game. It's just that's just sort of a cornerstone of this universe. Comparing it to something like Dead Island, where verticality is not really a thing at all. It's just interesting. It does take some learnings from things like Crisis and Far Cry of doing the first person cutscenes locked in and never leaving perspective. It does it perfectly here. I find that's the best way to do an immersive narrative first-person story, and this will grip you, right? Because the story itself is actually really clever. Again, I've only just ducked back in for some B-roll, but it's all coming back to me. Sit around in this fictitious Middle Eastern city called Haran. There is a virus outbreak, it's a zombie outbreak. You go in as kind of a third-party secret operative. I can't actually quite remember if it's CIA or something like that, but it's some sort of nefarious cloak and dagger org, right? And you have an objective to go into this city that turns out there's kind of a big bad holding down a partial formula for said virus and threatening to release it onto the world. And you're being infiltrated in kind of James Bond style to find out where this dude is and try and sort that mission out. And this all goes sideways like 10 seconds in, and you tie in with the local good guy faction. And funnily, this world is just like off the grid. They can't get any comms out, probably because your faction's blocking them to stop old mate launching the thing. So you're walking this tightrope. It is a classic thriller setup of you're growing fond and attached to these good guys and they're trusting you, but you obviously have a big secret that you're keeping from them, and it walks that uncomfortable line which is the core to a really good story. In fact, the way that they mechanically play it out, because I noticed it, is really novel actually. You have to report back into your handler on a little hand radio, and that'll be between every mission or so. It forces you up onto a rooftop and you go into a little cutscene, and I couldn't help but think this is all very clever and intentional. One, I like the aesthetic that it sort of does this fade to blue saturation, while Crane, the main character, back briefs his handler in a dot point brief of what has happened so far. I think it's a very, very clever way to make sure that no one gets left behind on a story. I'm certain it's intentional as well. It's like the concept of teaching someone helps you consolidate what you understand. If you get someone to explain the story so far, it forces them to really acknowledge whether they understand it or not. It's so clever. It also forces you vertical, reinforcing that idea that maybe you have been running around on the ground just dodging zombies, but the fact that you have to keep reporting in and going to the top of these rooftops to do so, it creates this, reinforcement for the player that this is how you're supposed to play it. This is how we want you to play it. At its core, there's a really good combat system. I feel like you're a lot more powerful in this than the Beast, because it's still fresh on my memory. In that one, it's a little bit more, even fighting one zombie is a bit of a trial. Got to belt them bloody 10 times in the head. In this, it's still like that. If you compare it to what came before, your Left 4 Deads and that, right? Walls of zombies that go down from one bullet and you just spray bazillions of dudes. This was a step towards the whole, 2 or 3 zombies can become a handful, and that's how you get overwhelmed so quickly. A really good way to manifest slow zombies actually being a threat if you allow yourself to get bogged down. So it's very melee heavy. There are guns and all that a bit later on, but again, they draw in zombies. They draw in the fast zombies. So it's all melee centric. There's a really good blueprint crafting system for making wacky stuff that generally comes in this genre. Like Dead Rising's the great example of really weird contraptions, especially 2, I think. But in this, you can make electric and poison golf clubs or whatever. And so you run around doing missions, earning reputation with the local faction and pushing the story forward, and it's all just really compelling. The soundtrack's great. It's got that sort of Middle Eastern vocals mixed in with a synthwave vibe that works really well together with this dusty, sandy city. Again, well realized. They have some interesting systems built into or you could probably call it the local culture of this environment. There are airdrops that come in, and narratively you're trying to get to one of 2, mostly the antizin ones. It's a suppressant because pretty much everyone's bitten and infected, but if they keep taking this suppressant, it will keep you from turning whole cloth. But there is an enemy kind of mafioso gangster faction that are racing you for these airdrops as well. So that actually starts to open up as you go a bit more open world and the game lets you off the leash, where these airdrops will sporadically come in and you can side quest, run off to try and secure them, but you'll probably have to fight these uber mercenaries for it. And from that, there's loot and rewards, etc. So that's a really cool system that's kind of unique to this game. The other one is day-night cycle. You really don't want to be at nighttime because of these volatiles, which have carried through the whole series. This whole focus on UV light, or even, just daytime sunlight in general, keeping them locked up, but they come out at night, and it's very much agents from the Matrix, right? Your only option is to run, and it creates some really thrilling nail-biting nail-biting, terrifying moments. At night time, it gets pitch black. Again, I still remember this from the Beast, so they've carried this mentality, these systems forward into their sequels as well. But it's cool going back to this, seeing where it started. It still looks like $1,000,000. Like, it runs perfectly. So if you're on an older rig and you're looking for something that looks great and just doesn't stutter, this would be it. But yeah, I can't sing my praises high enough. The whole package is really immersive. When I clocked this originally, when it came out, I did it with a bunch of mates. You can play it 4-player co-op. There's an invasion system, which I never really liked that much. I don't really like them in general. I'm not a big fan of going into someone else's game and trying to fuck it up for fun. But it's there, you know, I guess if you want to turn it on. I'm sure the only people that use it are probably the handful of sweats that have been playing it for 10 years non-stop, ruining other people's fun. But you can just play in offline private mode, which is, you know, what I do. I'm sure most probably do as well. But yeah, excellent game. Always love coming back to it. It's not such a distant memory for me because, like I said, I've come back to it multiple times over the years, which, if anything, stands testament of how impactful it was for me that I haven't just left it on the shelf. Anyway, team, check it out yourself. Might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.